Hello, Melissa. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm great, Elisha. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Beautiful, and thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate you. And you see, Melissa, oftentimes I love to thank my guest for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, I want to say thank you so very much, Melissa, for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you did invest that in yourself. And oftentimes, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, Melissa, some couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the
Mm,
roadside, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I use the word
mm,
unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Melissa, just recently, I was on that same road. And this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. You see, the mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did. And it wowed me
mm,
because now the mango tree's got a
mm,
lot of mangoes on it. Beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. And not just mangoes now, Melissa. I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely
mm,
experience that day. I was so excited. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Melissa that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the
mm,
request for me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing. Your philosophies, your insight, the impact your work is having, how you are offering your solutions. These stuff are beautiful. And just before I sent you that request, Melissa, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things Melissa is doing. Not only me now, but even with the audience. And here we are today with the
mm.
amazing Melissa. So thank you so very much for doing that to yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said no, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Your kind words mean so much to me.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much too. So let's get started. You say, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one
Mm,
to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Melissa, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information. And not just knowledge now, but the application of it. And you see, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness
mm,
ignorance, I've been so keen to
mm,
knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason
mhm,
why I'm excited to have the incredible Melissa on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information of which I am totally convinced, Melissa, that our conversation is going to be impactful and insightful. So, for that
mm.
reason, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Melissa got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Melissa,
All right.
over to you.
All right, Elisha. Well, this journey started with me in 2019, the fall of 2019. I just hit a wall. I ended up in the emergency room twice over a 2-week period with accelerated blood pressure, racing heartbeat. I thought I was having a heart attack the first time. The second time around, they ran every test on every part of my body, sent me to a cardiologist. There was nothing physically wrong with me. But what had happened was years worth of stored trauma, stored
Hmm.
unprocessed emotions that were begging to come out and be paid attention to. And so many times we see our bodies as being against us, when I actually believe our bodies are very much for us. They will send us clues. Alarm, alarm. Hello, I need help. I need attention here. And so many times I find that women put themselves on the back burner, take care of everything and every part of their lives first, except for themselves. And I really want to reverse that conversation, because that was a wake-up call for me that day, that I needed to get very curious and very connected to what was happening in my body and what she was trying to tell me. And so I started the very deep work, starting with a therapist. And then through that time, watching my daughters do different things that were working for them, I was able to kind of put together this framework that really started working for me. And it allowed me to ask myself really important questions, like seeing the connections between my mental, emotional, and physical health. Instead of labeling emotions as good or bad, seeing emotions as clues of letting me know something needed to be processed, needed to be acknowledged, felt, and seen. I don't believe in positive or negative, good or bad emotions. I believe in emotions as clues to let you know that something needs your attention or something needs to be celebrated. And so listening to those clues and getting curious about those clues. And then through that, also learning that it was important for me to unpack narratives that were stigmas and old tired narratives that weren't serving me anymore, that so many times women get, starting when we're very little girls, about how we're supposed to show up in the world. And no one asks us what we actually care about, what we want to do, but they just give us this script. And so many times we find many years down the road into adulthood that script isn't actually aligned with who we are. So I ask myself first, and women, to get very curious about, what are my values? What are my why? What are my expectations for my life? Where do I need to set some healthy boundaries around my time and space to make sure I'm investing in places that are aligned with me, with people who genuinely care about me? What am I doing to fill my cup each day to make sure I'm showing up with a full reserve, fully present as my healthiest self, not only because I am worthy of it, but because the people I'm around are benefiting from getting the healthiest version of me instead of the tired, burnout version of me. And so flipping that narrative, taking care of yourself is not selfish. Prioritizing and putting yourself first is not selfish. It's actually very beneficial for everyone that you come into contact with. But when I'm working with women one-on-one, on my podcast, we kind of do these in a different order, but when I'm working with women one-on-one, the first thing I talk to them about is, how do you feel about yourself? How do you feel? What I call layers. And it's called embracing your layers. All the pieces and parts of you that make up who you are. Some you love, some you don't. But getting to a point where you can acknowledge and give grace to, rather than shame around or embarrassment around that bad decision you made, or that relationship you stayed in longer than was healthier for you. Rather than shaming yourself for it, get curious about that. Meet that person where they were at that time, and give them some grace and be like, oh, you know what? Given the people that were around her, given the narratives that she grew up with, given what she knew at the time, it makes sense that I made that decision. I don't love it. I wish I hadn't, but it makes sense. So I'm going to give myself grace now, and I'm going to take away the shame. I'm no longer going to beat myself up for that. And so doing this layers work allows you to really understand and see your value. And we prioritize what we value. And so that's why at the very beginning, when I'm working with women one-on-one or in groups speaking, I do this in my online course as well. We start with the layers journey, because once we can do that work and prioritize ourselves, as valuable, we will no longer put ourselves on the back burner. We will no longer put everything and everyone before us because we know we're valuable and worthy of and in need of care to fill our cup, to show up healthy and well in all the aspects of our life. But it took that wake up call to get me to do that work. My hope is I can talk to women and share this framework with them and tell them, don't wait until you get to a critical point in your health or in your journey. Don't wait for burnout. Apply this framework now so that you can keep yourself on track. And when you feel yourself getting on track, go back to the framework to help you reset.
This is powerful and profound. Now I see why your clients love you, because your insights are really, really incredible. And you just informed my perspective as to the area of layers. I never knew that before.
Yeah.
And now you've educated me. Okay, so let's still talk about that, layers. So how do one embrace all of one's layers?
Well, it takes a lot of patience and curiosity. I think you really have to start from a place of grace and empathy. And so as one of the common examples I use is if your daughter, if your sister, if your best friend came to you and said, gosh, I'm really struggling with this part of my life. I have a lot of shame around it. What would you say to them? You would most likely approach them with like, oh my gosh, you need to be gentle with yourself. You should forgive yourself for that. We're human. We make mistakes. We do things that aren't always healthiest for us, but we learn from them and we move forward and we accept them. So take that very language and apply it to yourself. And so when you kind of give that example, I've had a guest on yesterday, Anna Parisi, and she said when she was doing her work, it was a wake-up call to realize that the relationship she had invested in the least was the relationship with herself, and that needed to be the one she invested in with the most because we spend the most time with ourselves. And so it starts with that realization, but a lot of grace, a lot of empathy. And when you feel yourself getting judgmental, replace that with curiosity. That's the key. Curious every time you feel that urge. And I had these notes in my journal and around my house when I first started. Curious rather than judgmental. So you start feeling like you're beating up on yourself a little bit for something. Okay, so where was I in that stage of my life? Why is it that I process that this way? Why is it that get curious, start asking yourself why, start looking at the scenarios around you. Sometimes terrible things happen to us that we have no control over, but we will many times blame ourselves for. And so being willing to be like, you know what? I did not earn that or deserve that. That is a decision someone else made to do that to me. And I had no control over that. And just because I was in that place doesn't mean they had a right to take advantage of me in that way. So I'm no longer going to beat myself up or blame myself for that thing that happened to me, that decision I made. So it's that curiosity over judgment, which allows you to really, on those hard layers, on those hard seasons in your life, allows you to change the framework so that you don't have to love that layer, but you can acknowledge it, accept it, and no longer have shame or fear around it.
Powerful, I got that. So one need to be curious rather than being judgmental. I got that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about your podcast. What inspired you to start the F.E.E.L podcast? F.E.E.L.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the acronym for that is Finding Empowerment, Embracing Layers. And what I realized after my own journey, a few years into it, is that there were too many women that I knew having similar experiences. And so I really felt an urge to start conversations with women to start talking about these seasons and places and decisions we make, and really changing the narrative around the stigma that taking care of yourself is selfish, and starting to provide resources for women so they don't feel alone in this, to provide conversations for women, to hear other women talking about similar experiences and realizing they're not alone and that we're in this together. And let's start talking about the things that get in the way of us doing this. And let's take down those old tired narratives and together change the trajectory. And rather than seeing taking care of ourselves as selfish, my friend Erin Copeland likes to use the word self-full, where we're filling
Mm,
ourselves up so that we're giving from an abundance in all parts of our lives instead of giving from a deficit. But it was getting those, I'm like, we need to start talking about this, because living by these old scripts and old narratives of putting ourselves last and not tending to ourselves is killing us. It's literally taking us out. It's damaging all parts of our health. And we need to make this move into a different direction. And I really believe in the power of women coming together as a collective to make changes rather than in silos. And the other important thing I wanted to emphasize is let's learn from each other's stories so we know how to support each other instead of seeing each other as competition. Let's do this together and learn from each other and lift each other's voices up.
wow, that's a beautiful one. And I love that. So we have two more to go, okay? So what does
Okay.
living unapologetically look like?
For me, it really started with a simple journey of my therapist realized, my husband had been telling me for years, you apologize for everything. You apologize for things that aren't your fault all the time. And I realized other women are doing this too. So the first step is and my husband did a very intentional, he and my therapist kind of combined to do a very intentional accountability work with me. And it took me about a year and a half to break this habit of every time I said sorry for something that wasn't actually my fault, my husband would be like, whoa, stop for a minute. I want you to
Mm,
rephrase that in a different way. And he was
right.
really good at this. And so about a year and a half. So first thing is for women to stop apologizing for things that aren't their fault. And that includes so many times we walk in a room, we're saying, I'm so sorry. Can I have a minute of your time? No. No need to apologize for that. Just say, excuse me, can I have a minute of your time? Or if you do have some time right now, but don't apologize for entering a room.
Mm,
Know that you deserve to be seen, known, and heard. And then the second part of that, once you have a handle on that piece and know and are confident that you deserve to be seen, known, and heard without apology, you support other women in doing this as well. So if you see another woman struggling with this, you lift her up. If you see someone interrupt her in a meeting, you say, excuse me, I don't think Sarah was finished yet. Support her, allow her, lift her up, and remind her that she doesn't need to apologize for showing up in her life.
beautiful. And I got that. That's a beautiful one. And your husband really did a great job. I love that. So
Thank you.
finally, yeah, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those folks who would like to learn more about the beautiful stuff you're doing, ask you questions, or open your services or programs, how can that be possible?
Yeah, the last thing I'd like to leave audiences, the listeners with today is like, write down 5 activities that nourish you. And then look at those 5 activities that nourish you and see where you can, if you're not already utilizing them and infiltrating them into your life, where can you plug those in? Those are such simple ways to take care of yourself, to make sure your cup is full. So take some intentional time this week to think about and write down those 5 activities that nourish you, and then look at your calendar and see how you can incorporate those on a regular basis. That's my takeaway. And then to find me, go to embracinglayers.com. All of our resources, podcasts, panel shows, how to work with me, our online course, our book are all there, our blogs. If you would like to schedule a free 30-minute consultation with me, just go to the contact form on that page and let's set up a time and talk to see how this framework can best serve you and support you in your own journey.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love that. So that's going to be the end of the show, Melissa. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this powerful stuff with us. You see, it means a whole lot. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me, Elisha.